Well, good evening, and welcome to another one of our Culture of Care episodes that we're doing. Jumping right in today. If you remember, right in our last session, we were kind of talking about culture of care and why it is happening here at the church, and how it's okay to not be okay. And are there some certain times I think in our life as leaders we all have moments, but so often the people around us don't feel like the leaders struggle.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a moment in your life where you've really had to kind of walk through some stuff where you really needed that culture of care to walk alongside of you?
Yeah, and I think what heightened that for me, Caleb, is the fact that you almost feel guilty or a condemnation that you need help. Because I was brought up, of course, I'm a lot older, so I was brought up in a generation like maybe many of the older people watching this video, that if you struggled as a Christian, then that was because of lack of faith. It was because of a sin in your life. It was because something that you had done wrong. So you're dealing with all of that issue. So when you are faced with a crisis, then it's magnified because you're not supposed to be having these crises.
You're supposed to be perfect.
You're supposed to have it all together. But many years ago, I had come back from a mission trip, actually from Guatemala. And I don't know if it was just a spiritual attack. I don't know if it was just emotions within myself. But while we were there, they were celebrating this annual festival that they have called Day of the Devil. And everywhere we went, whenever we landed in Guatemala City, they were selling these large piñatas of the devil. And I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. And then I find out later that it was the Festival of Diablo or the devil, how they were appeasing him to be able to have the spirits stay away for the coming year.
Wow.
Well, we went through all of that week and we did ministry there, and then I came home. And when I got home, I was just overwhelmed with a sense of panic and anxiety. And anybody that really knows me, I am not a panic-oriented person.
Mm-mm.
I'm not an anxious person or a worrying type person. But I was so overwhelmed at that moment that it paralyzed me. I remember getting up, getting ready to come to church, to the office in those days, and getting dressed, but not even being able to walk out the front door. I was so filled with panic that I could not function. And the anxiety that I felt, that I was just overwhelmed. Now, I don't know what the source of all of that was, but it was enough for me to realize you have got to get some help to be able to figure this out. It was so overwhelming. And I think when you're dealing with that moment, that's all you see. It's like, okay, is this going to be my life from now on? And it seems almost hopeless at that moment because the depression takes over and you feel as though you are never going to get out of the hole. This is a hole that I'm in and it's closing in around me, and all I see is darkness, and I am never going to be able to get out. And for me, I couldn't function. And I just wanted to be by myself. It was difficult to get out of bed. It was difficult to leave the house. I could not go about doing what I normally would do. And then you threw on top of that, well, it's not okay for me not to be this way. It's not okay for me not to be able to function. So that was all compounded. So I had to go see somebody. And I had to meet with them several times to be able to help me process why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. I do believe there was some spiritual dynamics to
Absolutely,
that.
probably.
I think there's more spirit involvement in what we're dealing with in
Absolutely.
our culture now than what we've ever wanted to give credit to. But that was a moment to where I was so vulnerable at that moment and so out of control at that moment that hopelessness was very, very real to me. Darkness was very, very real. And for people not to believe that people that are in ministry or Christians can walk through that I believe it's just a deception that the enemy wants to do. Because if I had been deceived enough into believing that I've got to carry this by myself, then I would have never reached out for help. And if I had never reached out for help, I may not be sitting in this chair today, because it was that dark and it was that heavy and it was that intense. So I was put in a position to where I had to make a choice. I had to understand I can't deal with this on my own.
Right.
I must seek help to be able to figure this out and walk through this.
Man, and that's so relevant because we see this is all happening all over the place right now.
All over.
Their suicide rates are through the charts right now. It's just crazy. So it's so important that you guys understand it's okay if you need help.
Yeah.
But you can't do it alone. And I think that's perfect. I mean, that's someone as a pastor at the top of where you're supposed to be, where everything is supposed to be right. You still had a struggle.
Yeah.
Thank God you were wise enough and you were obedient enough to go get help.
Yeah.
And so we want to share that with you guys today, that we're no different. When you take on the walk of Christ, it's going to get hard.
Yeah.
So we just really, really wanted to encourage you guys today that as we continue to share some of our stories, maybe it resonates with you, but here at Life Source, we are changing this culture. It's okay if you need help.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting out there today and this is resonating with you, you need help, reach out, because you don't need to do it alone, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys will see you on the next episode.